when my son stopped at at the stop sign and heard a funny noise and then jumped out of his truck to figure out what the noise was and found that his front tire had completely fallen off the truck, broken the caliper that holds the brake assembly on, and was laying flat on the ground under the truck. That's when he realized that he had a problem. Now, ask yourself honestly, is that when he had the problem, or is that the symptom of a problem that's been around for a while? The answer is, it's the symptom of a problem that had been around for a while. In fact, probably for months I had been telling him, do you hear that noise, that wah, when you're driving down the road? Your truck's not supposed to make that noise. That's not tire whine because you've got big mud tires on your truck. That's a noise that's made by a bearing that's about to go bad. You need to figure out which one it is. And the way to do that is to jack up the truck and then try to wiggle the tire in and out at the top or the sides and see if it moves. It should only spin. It shouldn't move in any other direction. Movement in any other direction is a bad, bad thing. Now, thank God he was stopped at a stop sign. When that bearing and hubs assembly finally just disintegrated and literally fell off the truck. The bolt, the nuts, the whole thing that holds the tire and the wheel on the truck came apart and it all fell out on the ground and the tire fell under the truck at a stop sign. It could have happened on one of those big sweeping highway turns at 60 or 70 miles an hour with all the weight and pressure on that front wheel, meaning it probably would have went right through the guardrails and off the side of the bridge. What kind of things do you have in your life? Little signs and symptoms, sounds that you hear right now, things that don't quite sound right. That was just a little bit off kilter, like the washing machine being out of balance and you can hear it tapping against the dryer just a little bit or making that noise. But you know when it hits the spin cycle, it's going to be making an unbelievable noise and slamming into the wall and banging into the dryer. And you know that something's got to be done about that. You stop where you're at and you run to the washer and you open the lid to stop the motor. And then when it all comes to a stop, you reach in and you rebalance what's going on. And I wonder if there's something in your life right now that's a little bit out of balance. That wheel bearing starting to whine just a little bit. The wheels haven't come off yet. The wheels haven't come off yet. Yet being the key word. The washing machine hasn't thrown itself away from the wall far enough to come unplugged yet. Or to pull out the drain hose and dump water all over the floor yet. But if change isn't made, it will. What are the areas in your life where taking personal responsibility for the things that are happening, for the symptoms, for the consequences, for the circumstances that you find yourself in? What is it that needs to change? What's got to give in order for you to see your life back in balance, to see things operating as they should be? I don't know the answer to that question for you. I know for everyone it's a little bit different. It may be your marriage relationship. It may be your dating relationship. It may be your career or your education. It may be just a way that you are you, a personality quirk, where there's starting to be some noise in the background, little signs and symptoms of a wheel bearing starting to whine, a washing machine out of balance, something in your relationship that's just not clicking the way it ought to be. But if you continue on the course that you're on, things are going to come unplugged. Things are going to get dumped in the floor. Wheels are literally going to come off. In the Learn to Roar leadership philosophy, when we talk about ownership, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the combination of experiences that you've already had and the future that you've got to be responsible for. And you've got to be able to balance those things together and go, okay, well, I think I learned this lesson way back when, or I should have learned this lesson because I've been through this experience before. See, when my son realized that the wheel can fall off when your wheel bearing goes bad, he and I spent several hours. We took the whole front end of the truck apart. We put the new wheel hub back in and the new brake caliper and the new caliper assembly and replaced the brake line. We had to do the whole thing. When it was all done, he drove it around the block and he's like, wow, that feels a whole lot better. Well, I was out of town for a couple of days, and when I came back, I asked him, how's his truck running now? He said, it's so good on that side that I went ahead and did the other side as well. I'm like, well, did you hear a noise in it? He said, it was a faint noise, but it did start to wiggle a little bit when I rocked the tire, and I figure with 300,000 miles on my old truck, it's probably best to go ahead and replace it. I would agree with that 100%. And I would also say there are a lot of people in their life that see that little sign or symptom, and they deal with the one that seems like it's about to cause a big problem. Or maybe it already has caused a big problem, but they don't deal with the little signs and symptoms that look exactly the same in a different area of life. The right wheel fell off. The left one hasn't been a problem yet. But do you wait until it is, or do you deal with the symptoms that are there? If you have narcissistic tendencies and you haven't identified them and you treat everybody like garbage, maybe one person has blown up on you and that relationship is over and you've done everything you can to try to reconcile it, but you can't figure out how to fix it. Are there other relationships that are hanging in the balance right now that may very well go as bad as that one? Is there something in you could change because you've learned from those experiences and said, wow, I really messed that up. What can I do differently? When we talk about ownership, we talk about taking responsibility for the things that you have responsibility for, learning from your experiences, and the most valuable, learning from the experiences of others. You can see that part of my bookshelves are empty because we're moving our studio and all of this has to go. But it'll be in phases over the next week, and then Saturday we'll be done. But there's a reason that I have so many books and so many bookshelves. I don't want to have to experience all of the negative things in life in order to learn. I find great value in learning from the experiences of others. Sometimes positive experiences. They've found shortcuts to the things that I want to know. Sometimes from their negative experiences, they've done stupid things that, well, I don't want to pay the consequences for that, but I can learn from the consequences that they had to pay. I think that's reality for all of us. If we surround ourselves with the right people, we can find that their experience feeds our growth. Their calamities, their bad circumstances, their horrible consequences can advise us how to avoid them. Do you learn from your own mistakes? Do you learn better from the mistakes of others? What areas have you paid the price in because you thought you'd already learned that lesson, but the consequences just keep coming? Take ownership for the things in your life, the good and the bad. Be responsible for the decisions that you're making, and invest in yourself by reading good books, by studying other people. You can watch some YouTube videos and learn some great things as well. Brendan Burchard's a good guy to watch. Lance Wallnau's a good guy to watch. Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, old Dale Carnegie and Zig Ziglar videos. All of those will improve the quality of who you are if you can learn from the mistakes of others. But no one will help you make the decisions that you have to make. You've got to take ownership of that yourself. Will you do that today? Take some time to ask yourself the question, what could I be doing differently before the wheels come off? I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.